Wecreat contacted me and wanted to know if they could send out a laser. Now I have plenty of lasers, some I've bought, some have been sent to me by other companies, and I've turned down many of them, but this one is a laser like no other. There's two ways to build stuff. You can either copy what everybody else does, or you can come up with something completely unique, and it can either be better or worse, and there's always going to be hiccups, but that is the only way we get innovation. And this laser is unlike any other, almost. I mean, there are some similar, but at this price point and this type of laser, this is the only one like this. So what Wecreat has done is took a diode laser and have put in some of the best high-end features at an affordable price. All 20-watt diode lasers are very similar in how well they engrave, how well they cut. It's all in your settings, and so that is kind of up to the individual, which is also one of the hardest things to figure out when you're new, is what is your settings. And Wecreat has came up with a great solution for that, something I had never seen before. Now you see this is the way the machine works, is the laser head and all is built right into the top of the machine, and the whole machine comes up, which makes it super stable. And it also has what some people call the auto syncing. If you're familiar, it's a Z-axis up and down, because that is, again, probably one of the more difficult things that new people to lasers have, is to set the focus. And now I have had lasers that you had just a little block of metal that you had to stick underneath it and slide the laser up and down. And with this thing here, it will focus on your material so you can make sure you're at the right height above your material, and that way you're going to get a good clean engrave every time. I'm going to show you now just how easy this laser is to operate. I go in here to the Wecreat app, and you see it opens up and it looks kind of like a website. And now it is a great little website because you can come in here and click on an image, and everybody gets, I think, 6 months free when you buy one of these machines. But they have all kinds of files that are already designed. And if you wanted to make this, all you would do is come over here and click the make button, and it brings it right into your machine. And so if you had a piece of plywood in the machine, you could just hit start and you would be ready to go to make that project. There is nothing, no laser I have seen that you can, from the time you get the box and open it up, literally be cutting a project within 5 minutes. I mean, this is just crazy at how simple it is. Now, let's go ahead, I'm going to hit refresh, and what that's going to do is that's going to bring me in here to my little Slate coaster I have. If you're new to lasering, I would say go ahead and get you these Slate coasters. I'll put a link to them down in the description. And the Slate coasters, they just work fantastic. They look good. And I'm going to grab a file right here. Now this is my logo, so why not use that? Well, now I purposely put this Slate coaster in crooked because I just want you to see. Now what I'm going to do is something that I always recommend. Before you use this for your alignment, go ahead and focus it, because the entire machine moves up and down when it focuses, and that could affect your alignment a little bit. So you always want to be focused, and now that's going to bring it in. And then I can come over here and I can rotate this around. I can we're going to bring it up a little bit. Let's move it in. And see, I've got this little box around it. And that's just the way I have mine for all of my logos. And that way I can center it on whatever I'm centering it to. So over here we have our paths. And then we have the circle, which is around it. So we could either come over here and hit ignore for processing for that circle, or I could even delete the circle if I would like, and then that's going to be what we're going to engrave. Right here they have this materials. You select your materials, and let's see, do we have slate in here? Right there we do, slate stone, and then we're going to confirm that. So now we click on this, and we're saying we're going to do a fill engrave. I can pull up. This is something that Wecreat has already put into the software, and you can see how this is your speed. So when you're going slow at 100% power, you know, you're kind of getting more of a yellow, darkish. I like to run as fast as I can, and you know, about right there looks good. So as you see these boxes, I click on it, and that changes my speed. You can see it over here on the side. You know, so that's going to be 40 power at 250. If I want it to go 100% power at 50, I click on it right there, and that changes my settings. And so that's all I have to do, and that's going to get me the settings, and I have found these to be pretty accurate. So once I get my settings done, I will go ahead and see if it's going to let me do it since I've, because if you don't autofocus, it will remind you you did not autofocus, and it'll make you autofocus, which is great because you don't want to be out of focus. And then all you do is hit send, and then it tells you to press the button on the machine. I'll press the button, and you'll see the machine take off, and it will start to do our burn. And that is as complicated as it is to be up and running within 5 minutes of opening the box. Whenever I didn't do an unboxing, because on this machine I took it out of the box and I placed the grates in the bottom, and I think that was about it. There was no assembly, nothing to it. So this is one of the simplest machines. Now while that's running, let's go ahead, and you can hear the fan going. So in the machine, let's see, back in the, I'm gonna move the camera up just a little bit here. So back up there in the back, there's a fan, and that little fan is a high output fan. I don't know just what the output is on it, but that thing puts out a lot of air, and it has a duct that's connected to it. Now, they also have a pump. This is an air pump, and this is really important. If you're going to cut any material, you need an air pump. That's another thing that a lot of people have commented on my other videos I've done on lasers, that they couldn't get their lasers to cut because they did not have the air assist. Well, every one of Wecreat's machines comes with the air assist because they want you to have a good experience. And that air assist doesn't have to be plugged into the wall. It is plugged into the back of the machine, and then the machine turns it on when it starts to go, and it turns it off when it finishes. Now also, this is the actual Wecreat booster pump, which right now is not on, but that thing really puts out a lot of air. I have one that looks identical to this, but it does not put out near about the amount of air that does. And I have right here on the front of my machine is I just double-sided taped the switch on it. And so when I'm cutting wood where I'm really putting off a lot of air, I can sit here and I can crank that up. I don't know with the microphone if it'll be able to hear it, but you'll, in the room here, you can hear it start ramping up. It doesn't just instantly come on. This thing has to ramp up, but it really does work fantastic. So with the Slate, I don't even need it. The built-in pump runs perfectly fine. Now I have done a lot of dust collection videos. So you see right here on my desk, I brought in, this is my air quality meter. And right here in the room, I'm at 0.01 part per million, and that's of the 2.5 particulate. This thing, you know, the laser is running and I'm getting 0 particulate in the room. We're going to cut some wood when it finishes, and then you'll see how well that goes. And while we're over here talking about it, we were outside the other day, and my wife said, "Can that thing do rock?" I just picked up this rock out of the yard and throw this in the laser, and what do you know? It, put a, I don't know what kind of pattern that is, but it's just some little pattern I picked. But I thought that was unique. You can do rocks, pretty much anything you can think of. I got these little key rings I've been doing, again, the thing is pretty much fantastic. I went and downloaded a little file, and now this is walnut plywood. You can get this walnut plywood, and then I downloaded the file, and it took 5 minutes to cut out all of this, and then it just snapped right together. And now this does not look like, some of the items to me can kind of look cheap, these laser cut items. They're all the same because they're using the cheap birch or basswood. But you can get this walnut plywood. I've got some rosewood, and you can actually start making up some high-end items. Another little thing, I've got right here, this was out of that basswood. And now this is going to be something that one of the few things about this machine that I'm not fond of is that you cannot turn on and off the air assist by layers. You have to turn it on or off, completely. And you see how this has got the sooting around? If you was to turn your air assist off when you would do your engraving, and then turn the air assist on when you cut, because you see these cut lines? I mean, this thing cuts absolutely beautiful. I mean, I haven't cleaned this up. I haven't had to clean these up. It almost looks like you've burnished the edges, and all these edges are just, no soot whatsoever, but you're getting this on here because the air is blowing. Now, if I could turn the air off while I was engraving, you wouldn't get that extra, which you could clean that up. I just haven't taken the time to do it because these were just some little examples of things that we could do. But again, this was, I think, 6-7 minutes. You go grab you a file, throw it in there, and boom, you're done. Walk away, come back in a few minutes, and absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's see what we got. Pretty much perfectly centered, just that simple. If you have not had a laser before, then you probably will not understand how doing a rotary, so this is our little rotary here, how difficult putting in a rotary can be on some lasers. And on many lasers, you have to go in and disconnect like the Y stepper motor, and then plug that stepper motor into the stepper motor on the rotary. Very much a pain in the butt. This one, now, the only thing that's a little bit of a pain in the butt is that it comes with short screws, and there's a indexing pin right here, and this indexing pin goes into the hole. And so it goes right in the perfect spot, and then you have a screwdriver, which they actually sent you a full-size Allen head screwdriver to install this with, so it makes it easier. But I've got big fat fingers, so I have made these little 3D printed blocks, and then I use a little longer knurled nut so that I can just use my fingers and screw this in. And that makes this so much easier. But to install the rotary here, all I have to do is just screw in these two little screws, and then right here in the back center we have a plug. So then we take our plug right here, and now it says to be sure to turn the machine off, which I'm sitting here making a video, and then you forget about stuff when you're making the videos because your mind's off. but they've got this big sticker right here. It says, you know, be sure to turn the printer off before you plug or unplug that. And what that does is it kind of resets the memory. And so then it knows that that is plugged in, and that's all you have to do to set up a rotary. But I actually came up with this, and I 3D printed it, and that just snaps onto our cup, and then we put that into here, and then that actually goes right underneath there. And for me, I think that that works much better, because now I can tighten this in here, and I have not had a single cup pop off like that. So we got it nice and tight, spin around, make sure that our wheels here are all set up good. Everything's good. Let's close our lid down. Another really good feature of this laser is, you see right here where I have an IP address. So that has it going over the Wi-Fi. I've also got a USB wire here, and this thing will connect over USB, or it can connect over the Wi-Fi. And I had just set it up to see if it worked, and I can't tell a difference between the two. They both seem to work just as fast, and I've had zero issues running Wi-Fi or hardwire. Now, obviously, I would think a hardwire connection would be a better connection, but let's just leave this on the Wi-Fi and make sure this is going to run. As you see, I've got the cup in here now. Well, all we got to do is go over here and turn to cylindrical. It's going to ask us to put our diameter in here. I'm going to put 100 millimeters in this, and when I do, it's going to actually block off the non-working area. Now, this non-working area is so that the laser head, because the actual laser is in the center of the head, and that way it doesn't hit the chuck. It wants to make sure that you're going to be out of the way of the chuck. Now let's go ahead, and we're going to, what they call, upload our logo. I've got the logo here. I'm going to bring it in. You can zoom in. You see there's a little trim line right here on the cup. So we want to make that maybe a little bigger. Get it lined up. There it is. That's all we got to do. Let's go now to, you come over here and click off of your image, and that's going to bring up this materials. This is a stainless steel cup. It's blue. So we'll confirm that. We'll go ahead and I'll highlight this here, and then I can click on this picture, and then I can pick if I just want it to not go all the way through the powder coat and just, you know, put on the surface, or if I want it to kind of go all the way through up to, do I want this thing to discolor the metal to, you know, burn all the way through so that the metal is showing. Really, if you're doing cups, you should do a couple of cups of the same brand, because different ones can have different thicknesses of powder coat. But these settings are settings that Wecreat had in the machine. These are not settings that I've put into the machine. All this here is what they have in it. And so once again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send this over. But as you see, my autofocus is not highlighted because I cannot autofocus. And the reason why is whenever I hit start, it's going to come over and it is going to actually measure the laser and make sure what size it is. And then it'll come up, it says, okay, that's going to take 5 minutes and 22 seconds, about the same. So I will send that over and we will hit start. And now we'll have the machine go ahead and do our burn, and we will see how that turns out. Now, I have not burnt one of these brand cups, so we will see just how well that turns out together. So it looks pretty good, but I don't know if it's because this is a used cup. I see a couple little spots right on it where it may or may not be perfect. I would assume that it's going to be good and I just need to scrub it, but I'm going to try. Let's see. So I'm going to resend that same file. I'm going to hit print, and so we're going to print it one more time, and we're going to see if it's exactly in the same location as the previous one, and that way you can see if you're wanting to batch something out, will this be able to repetitively give you the exact same burn in the exact same location every time. And especially for running 2 passes, I think that was actually a really good engrave. These lines are very thin, and they came out really good. This is another tumbler that I have done. And as you see, I mean, this is like where the focus, I had focused it in the center here, and it comes out perfect. Now, because it's trying to do the whole thing, and it's really not designed for that, you can see where it's got some little bit of lines. Use a little bartender's friend, and you know, that's just the difference in the focus from the top to the bottom. But all you got to do is just scrub that up, and that should come out just fine. But you see all the little fine details and everything. It definitely does a good job of engraving. Another thing that I really like is, because this has the grate in it, there's like a little lip. So I can slide this over, and this will be in the same spot every time. And so I like to make little jigs up like this, especially when you're getting out away from the edge. You know, when you try to align on any camera, because of the distance, you know, we're just got this little bitty camera in the center, you know, and it's coming at an angle here. It's hard to get it exactly perfect. And that's why what I like to do is I can take this little jig right here. Now we're going to try to do one of these little keychains. With the camera going all the way over here to the edge, it is the worst place that you can actually try to get the accuracy. So I have this jig, and I can pull up my jig right here, and then I can come over and I can upload my file. We'll go back over to that same shop logo, shop rambler. So I'm going to group this so I don't screw up and while moving this around, and because I'm going to have to resize it, and I want to be sure to get this in the right spot. And that's where, so I can zoom in to where that circle around my logo would come in. So the red circle here on my template is the exact size of that keyring. So as you see, I would actually be probably touching it on the edges. And so I'm going to kind of get this here. And now this is really closer to the edge than what you would want it to be. But I know that it's going to be on my jig. As you can see, the red line is not on the jig, but that's where it cut at. And that's because of the distortion from the lens. It's always going to push it out. And so the lens, the Wecreat claims that it is within 2 millimeters accuracy, and I certainly believe it's probably less than that. It is a very accurate camera. But however, no matter what camera, you're going to always have, the further you get away from the lens, you're going to have problems getting that alignment just perfect. And that's where I cut this little jig, so I know if I put it in here, it's going to actually cut it exactly right there. So let's go ahead and I'm going to ungroup this, and then I can get that circle. I'll delete my circle off of. So now we know that this is what we have. We're going to come over here. This is walnut, actual solid wood, about 3 millimeters thick. I'm going to confirm that. And then because I have my template and I have the different layers, so on my template, I've got those you see up here where they say ignore for processing. So it's not going to recut those red lines again. So now for our fill engrave, we can come over here and pull up our wood, and then we decide, do we want a real light engrave or do we want a dark engrave? I typically go about 100, but I like to get mine good and dark. But we'll try it, 100, 200. We'll see how it comes out at 100, 200. So we're going to hit our autofocus. All right, you see now once it auto-focused how it actually kind of moved it over and it looks a little different. But we're going to go ahead and hit our start button. It's going to take 1 minute 26 seconds. We'll send that over, hit start. So as you see, the machine actually functions terrific. I did a coaster. This is out of the Walnut, and this thing come out, and that's just the way it comes off the machine. There's no burning. They have the machine tuned down, and anything that they have settings in seems to work really well. The cutting, there's no option. You just click cutting, and you can change the settings if you want, but so far I haven't needed to because everything worked out just fabulous. Now you see this has got all this little intricate detail. Well, I was wondering just how accurate, this could, so I said, let's make it 50% smaller. And so I printed that out 50% smaller, and still all of everything came out perfectly. So it's like, well, let's drop it another 50%. And I mean, you have to get that up to the light to be able to see that. That's about the size of a quarter there. And everyone came out perfect. So I said, well, let's cut it in 50% again. And so there's no way that this is coming up on the film, I believe, but I mean, you can put this up to the light and look through it, and it has cut each one of those little holes, that precision, and that thing's less than the size of a dime. So as far as accuracy and functionality, the machine works great. There are a few things I wish were a little different. I wish there had a on and off switch on the front of the machine instead of having to reach around to the back of it. As far as your average person just wanting to get into laser or has been into laser and they're wanting to have something that they can run in the house, this thing is the safest laser I have seen. The smoke collection on it works fantastic. It does not spill any of the light out into the room. It's got this big, nice front on it where you can watch what it's doing while it's running and still be safe. That's all fantastic. Now, some of the settings on the software I would prefer to be a little different, so I'm going to start using this with Lightburn. I wanted to give it a full test with their software, and for the most part, I think their software, one, is something, especially if you're new, you can get up and running and do beautiful work and look like a professional right out the gate. Now those last little bit, it's that 80-20 rule. To get that last 20%, there's some of the settings that could be tweaked a little bit better, and Lightburn actually does it, but they have a file to where you can run this machine in Lightburn. The only kind of caveat is the camera because Lightburn is looking for a USB camera, and this camera is actually designed into their system and hooked to their motherboard, it doesn't pass through, so the built-in camera will not show up in Lightburn. However, you can just add a secondary camera right next to that one and calibrate it, and then it will function just fine. I'm going to do some videos. I'm going to go ahead and probably relocate my on and off switch to the front. I'm going to make some more jigs and stuff for the rotary where I can actually do the tapered cups and a few other things with the Lightburn. I'm going to make a mount for the camera. So if you'd be interested in that, let me know. Or if there's anything else you would be interested in, let me know, and I'll be happy to put it out there. The files that I have for the rotary extension and the little screws, I'll put a link in the description for that. I'll also put a link in the description for this laser. You can go on their website, follow the link below if you want, and you will not be dissatisfied with it. There's really not there is nothing that I can knock about the hardware of this machine. It is the best machine built. The electronics, just the quality of the build, is the best laser that I have used. The Wecreat software, it has limited functionality when you want to get to some of the more advanced settings. I personally like to turn my air off during the engrave and then have it on during the cuts. Things like that you cannot do in the Wecreat software. So I am going to start using the Lightburn. Other than that, I don't think that you'll be dissatisfied with this laser. Now, I've done, since I've gotten this, I've had like 3 or 4 more laser companies contact me, and why not go ahead, and now that I've got some, I want to actually do a head-to-head and see how well all these 20 watt, I think I got 5 20 watt lasers, to see, if there's any difference in how thick of material they can cut. So if there's anything that you're curious about and would like to see in a review, please let me know in the comments, and that way on the future videos, I can make sure to get the content that you're wanting to see. And also, if there's any kind of modifications or any additional information you want on this machine, let me know. Being that this machine is in the house and where I can come in here and make videos, this would be something I'm bored in the middle of the night, we can certainly shoot some videos on. I did get the infrared module. I did not want to, I knew this was going to be a long video anyway, and so I did not want to get into the middle of that and not do it justice. I'm really excited about that infrared module. So now that I've got this review out of the way, I am going to get that infrared out, and I want to go ahead and do a few burns with the 20 watt blue before I do the infrared, where I can do a head-to-head comparison. So go ahead, and if you have any questions about that infrared or anything you want to see in the video with that one, be sure and put it in the comments, because I haven't filmed that one yet, and I will be doing that soon, and that way I can be sure to include anything you want. So until next time, I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon.